Hello everyone, and welcome to Sunup. I'm Lyndall Stout. We begin today with a growing problem for landowners in Oklahoma. We're talking about wild hogs. Sunup's Austin Moore starts in Pawhuska.
At the Osage County Fairgrounds in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, it's not unusual to find a group of cowmen gathered together for a learning opportunity. What is unusual is when they're gathered together to talk about hogs.
What we're having today is a conference to educate producers on how to recognize and manage damage from feral swine, wild hogs.
To do that, they've brought in experts from parts of the U.S. and parts of Oklahoma that have been dealing with this growing nuisance for years. Experts like Mississippi State's Skip Jack.
Well, historically, the story is that when Hernando de Soto was exploring the southeastern United States, that the hogs were released from the Eurasian boar, but that's been 300-400 years ago. But as we've had swine operations, swine farming in this country over the last 250 years, 300 years, some of those hogs will get released. And apparently they are crossbred now, so it's very hard to tell a completely Eurasian boar from a wild hog.
Okay, so we have Spanish explorers to thank for a few wild hogs running around the state. Maybe a few 100,000. Okay, some of the estimates go up to 1.6 million. But that just sounds like good hunting. Only there are problems.
There are a handful of diseases that will be shared, that can be shared between wild hogs, or any animals really, and humans. The main ones that we're most concerned about are brucellosis. People can also get salmonella and perhaps leptospirosis.
And if that isn't enough reason to convince you to control these creatures, you should see what they do to the land. In fact, Oklahoma State University wildlife specialist Dwayne Elmore and I headed south to Love County with colleagues from the Noble Foundation to look at that damage.
We're sitting here at a nest site, and actually the female sow, she'll bring in vegetation and pile it up and keep the young protected and warm underneath the vegetation as she nurses them. Landowners might sometimes see these piles of vegetation in thicket areas, which is typically where a pig would try to raise their young in more protected and secluded sites.
The damage that you see here are from a sounder of feral pigs or wild pigs. Every place where this soil is torn up, you completely eliminate forage production for quite a while. It takes a while for these grasses to recover from such severe damage. It's the same thing as coming in and disking it up with a plow. Some of these holes can become pretty deep and cause a lot of expense for a landowner to have to come back in and level out and smooth back up to avoid damage to equipment or to people or to livestock.
They also are destructive to native flora and fauna, plants and animals. Just like with cattle, they're also competing for forage and acorns and lots of other wild food stocks that native wildlife depend on. They also can be destructive for ground nesting birds. Not only do they consume the eggs of ground nesting birds, but they will destroy vegetation that those birds might depend on for nesting cover.
So bad for people, bad for agriculture, bad for wildlife. The question becomes, how do you control them?
There's no toxicants that are labeled for use with wild pigs right now. So trapping and hunting are really the two most effective tools that a landowner has to be able to mitigate problems such as this.
And hunting is largely ineffective when dealing with sounders of 20 to 30 pigs.
I had a story already this morning that, yesterday some folks ran into some hogs and there was almost 20 of them, they said, and they killed 2 of them just before they're gone out of rifle range. So, that's about how effective that is.
Conventional ground traps are more effective, but still leave a lot to be desired. Conducting research for the Noble Foundation, Josh Gaskamp told me the conventional traps only captured about 50% of sounders. And they did capture a number of other wildlife species that weren't targeted.
We are attracting white-tailed deer, raccoons, things of that nature into our traps with the bait as well.
Drop nets were more effective, capturing 86% of their targets. but required teams to stake out the trap site for hours on end, often overnight. So the team developed something new, something cool.
This is a trap that we're calling the boar buster. We have a computer set up on site. The computer has a webcam attached to it that when there's motion in front of that webcam, it sends us a text message or email. We log onto the system from there, are able to watch a live video feed of the trap, determine when is the appropriate time to capture based on how many hogs we have.
Now, it's early, but so far, this system is capturing similar rates to the drop nets, with less man hours, while eliminating non-target captures. Noble is working to bring this technology to the market, but in the meantime, trap them however you can and keep this advice in mind.
Once you have pigs trapped, you can kill them and then process them yourself for consumption, or you can transport them live to a licensed processing facility. Now, if you're going to do that, you need to contact the Department of Agriculture, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, and get a permit to transport those animals.
Because if you don't, they'll have you squealing all the way home. For Sunup, I'm Austin Moore.